So there have been some updates in the Megan Place situation that are very concerning, and I wanted to do a public service announcement to share content that she has shared, an announcement she has made, and requests that she's made where she's setting boundaries that I think are very, very important to highlight. Now, with that in mind, for those that may not know, recently over the past couple of months, Megan has initiated, according to her, a divorce with her ex-husband, Zach, due to allegations that allegedly Zach and Leah, which was Megan's best friend, were seeing each other after Megan had just had her child, which in itself is terrible, but the fact that her best friend allegedly has done this is also terrible. Now, when this first came out, people weren't sure if it was just a PR kind of thing, if it was fake, if it was made up, whatever, because the internet likes to spin things out of context. However, over the past couple of months, we've seen a number of pieces of evidence, primarily filmed by people in public, where they have captured screenshots, images, videos of allegedly Zach and Leah out in public together. There was the notorious one where they were at Disneyland. Then there was also screenshots that came up of them allegedly watching like a football game or something, which I'll put on the screen. And then people also allege this is them in like a gaming store like Best Buy. So that's what people are speculating, and these are the images that they have to show for that. Now, with that in mind, I understand that when Zach and Leah are in public, people want to take pictures of them because this is like a hot topic. But at the same time, I think people need to understand that this is also somebody's life. And although those people did choose to post themselves publicly, and Megan has been very public about what has occurred, according to her, that doesn't mean that you can go and just take pictures of people, especially out in public when they have their child. And that's what I'm going to get into. That is very important in this video. So Megan released these 3 stories on her TikTok. This one was also posted to her Instagram, but it reads a text from her ex-husband, Zach, that says, a group of teens just took photos and videos of us with Clover. Which, when he says of us, I'm assuming maybe he's referencing him and Leah, or it could just be him, I'm not quite sure. Maybe he's just referencing him and Clover, which for those of you that don't know, Clover is Megan's child, who she had about 2 years ago, I believe. So in 2024, so not quite 2 years. She says, oh God, does she have sunglasses with her? Maybe you should put those on her and a hat. And then she says, for the record, I don't care if people take photos of Zach and Leah. So that's what's alluding to me that maybe Zach and Leah were together. But please don't photograph my baby or walk up to them while with my baby. Her safety above else, please. And I 100% agree with this. You know, at the end of the day, I understand keyboard warriors and internet justice people want to take screenshots or pictures or stuff and like harass and, you know, call out to Zach and Leah. And I can imagine how harmful and hurtful this would be for Megan, for her child, her baby, because she shares custody with her husband, to be going on walks with her ex-best friend who allegedly cheated on her with her husband. Well, it didn't cheat on her, but I guess friendship-wise cheated with her husband, so to speak. It's very confusing. But the fact that Leah and Zach, from what I understand from this, are taking Clover out together without Megan, first of all, that's messed up. But I understand he has joint custody, and that's unfortunately what occurs with that. But also, it's messed up that, you know, people are taking this as an opportunity to harass them. It's one thing to harass a grown person that has the ability to call the police and has the ability to get a lawyer and file a restraining order. But it's another thing to actively victimize a child that is not at all related to the situation. This situation has nothing to do with Clover. She's a completely innocent person in this whole thing, just as Megan is, in my opinion. And I think it's really harmful to be putting Clover in a situation, even though she's a baby. I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, she won't remember, she's a baby. Doesn't matter. Like, you don't know what people do, and unfortunately people online are crazy, and I know that firsthand. And I know there's some of us, which I like to believe one of them is myself, where we try to be level-headed and be honest and not be terrible human beings. But unfortunately, people will develop parasocial relationships with celebrities online, and those can then carry over into real life. So if they see, you know, Leah and Zach, or just Zach by himself, or whatever it may be, with the baby, taking photos and approaching them, especially like just violating their privacy, especially of the child, it's just incredibly messed up and just not appropriate. So if you are one of the people that was taking these pictures, don't. It's weird, it's messed up, and I will certainly not be using any pictures that surface online with Clover in them, because although Megan has posted Clover publicly with her face prior to that, that does not mean that any time that Clover, an innocent child, is out in public, that she should be harassed by people who have an issue with Zach and Leah. It's very, very bizarre. Now, Megan also went on to write this, where she says, somebody messaged her Matt Vent account, and he was replying to her story, it looks like. It says, so are you still like friendly with Zach and Leah? And if I see you in public, is it okay for me to ask you for a photo? And she responds, I will take as many photos with as many of you as possible. I love meeting you guys. Even if I'm with Clover, I just don't want her photographed, which was a very, very respectful comment to make. And obviously she's purposely not addressing, you know, if she's friendly with Zach, because she has to be, guys. At the end of the day, I think a lot of kids don't really understand logistics of divorce. And to be fair, I've never been divorced. I'm also pretty young. However, I do understand that typically when divorce occurs, the custody, so who takes care of the child, is divided between the two parents, which then in turn means that whoever that parent, example Zach or Megan, is dating, subsequently kind of becomes like a secondary parent to Clover. And I do think it's unfortunate that that's the case, especially when there has been alleged betrayal and stuff that was completely out of Megan's control, in my opinion. It is unfortunate to know that, you know, I guess Zach would still be in the picture for some people. However, at the same time, Clover deserves to have a dad. You know, she is completely innocent in this whole situation. And at the end of the day, I do still hope that, from what it sounds like Megan's saying, Zach is still a great dad. I think that's what's important here. You know, at the end of the day, real adults put their differences aside regardless of how they've been betrayed, and they do what's best for the child, and that's what I'm seeing here. Now, she also put this post, it was a video, but somebody in my Discord server by the name of Kat was kind enough to send this to me, and it was also posted to her TikTok story. It says, people are wondering why Zach has Clover. She's his daughter. We share custody, and putting Clover first is always my top priority. She deserves to have a dad regardless of how I feel, which that is a very selfless and mature way to handle this. And I have to say, Megan has put on such a mature attitude towards this whole situation that I feel like a lot of people can take notes from someone who has been, in my opinion, and from what I understand, so heavily betrayed. And this has been, you know, she's publicized it, but you know, you have lots of people talking about it. Every comment section, even if it's not about this, is people like, are you back with Zach? Are you back with Zach? And there's been like this weird like shipping with Flamingo. Very, very, very bizarre. And what I think there's undertones to that, which I'm not trying to get too, you know, into it, it's just, I don't know why people seem to think that Megan can't be her own like independent woman. Like there's this push that I see a lot in her comment section of people trying to be like, oh, like who are you dating now? Who are you seeing now? You guys, you know, women can be single, right? Like it's very bizarre, almost kind of like this like notion that she needs to find another man right away, especially when she's been dating or she's been with Zachary, I'm assuming that's his full name, for a long time. And, you know, obviously when you have a child together, you've been married, like that is an incredibly difficult thing to navigate once that ends, because she said in her own videos like it's the first time in years that she's been alone. It's really tricky. And I think it's very bizarre that people are acting like having a man in the picture would solve all that. At the truth of it and the reality of it is that the situation will make Megan stronger, and she does not need a man in her life to help her get through this. Like if she wants that, sure, awesome, but she is perfectly capable of navigating this stuff. And I think it's weird putting this notion that she needs a man or she should rely on a man. Very bizarre. Now, on top of that, Megan has also been posting a lot of TikToks, one of which was, it was one with like a caption. It was like, show me what you do when you think of me. And it's her choking herself and like looking like she's scared, which I'm assuming she's probably referring to Zach in that, which valid. She also goes into some context regarding her feelings. She's also, my goodness, she's in her baddie era. I am living for her outfits. I've always seen Megan, and I guess maybe I just wasn't super behind the scenes, I guess, but I've always just seen her wearing pink, and I think pink is a beautiful color, and obviously I think it goes really well with her hair type. However, her in like these like black clothes going out, Megan. Round of applause. I just think she looks really, really pretty, and I love it. I think it's awesome. I think that it's really cool that she's able to dress in a way that makes her feel empowered, and she's going out and, you know, going out with friends and having a support system, which I think is really, really important. And she's also been pretty open on her social media about her mom supporting her and babysitting Clover when she goes out, which is awesome. Now, on top of that, she did, I believe, at some point she was in a live stream, which I'll see if I can find the clip, where basically she discusses how allegedly Zach said that her and him were never soulmates, that him and Leah are soulmates. And I'll see if I can find that clip. If I can, I will pause myself and put it in here.
But they're soulmates. He said we were never soulmates. He said they're soulmates.
But regardless, that is messed up. So I feel like there's a certain level of delusional, in my opinion, in this situation, and I certainly don't think that Megan deserves that. And it's unfortunate to learn through some of the posts that she's been making that she's been struggling with her eating and stuff like that throughout this whole situation, which, you know, I think a lot of people can relate to, not to make it seem super normalized, but that, you know, when you go through a hard situation and, you know, you're trying to navigate all these new things, it can be difficult to eat, and it can be challenging to, you know, prioritize yourself when you're trying to manage all these other things and, you know, create a stable environment for your child. So I think it's really good to hear that she's now doing better. And regardless, I would just like to put the announcement out there and share what Megan has said on my channel, because I have been covering the situation, and I think it is very important to not bring her child into this. Clover is completely innocent, and a lot of people like to use the excuse, oh, well, Clover, she posted her on the internet so people can talk about it. It's just distasteful. Yeah, I'm fundamentally sure people can talk about it, but it's distasteful to bring a child into it and be posting on a child's face. That's why I'd never on my channel have I ever posted her face, because it's just weird. You know, like, she's a baby. Leave her out of it, okay? The situation between Megan and her ex-husband is not involving Clover. Clover is an innocent bystander. Leave Clover alone. So with that in mind, guys, do not be following Zach. Do not be harassing Zach and Leah, especially when they have Clover. It's very, very, very bizarre. And obviously, you don't want to further hurt Megan. She's already hurting enough. She doesn't need to be worrying about people potentially harassing her child because they're trying to get to Zach. It's very bizarre. So guys, please remember, at the end of the day, you only see a fraction of what happens online. There's a lot more to an entire situation, and you should not be putting people in a position where they're fearing for their safety or the safety of their children. That is messed up. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!